Today's teardown is on some ancient technology. Okay, maybe not quite that old, but we're going to take apart a small block Ford, a 5-liter 302, and this came out of a 94 Mustang GT I bought from the auction. It was in-op. It looks like rats had eaten every bit of wire out from underneath the engine bay. It was disgusting on the inside of the car. The car only showed 81,000 miles on it, so that's when the odometer broke. Anybody with a 94 to 98 Mustang will tell you the odometers don't mean anything. All of them have broken at least once, and most people don't fix them. So I don't know how many miles are actually on this engine, but I do know that obviously I couldn't get it started, and it also failed a leak down test. Any engine that I can't hear run, and I'm not going to put a harness in one to hear it run, maybe. So we did a leak down test on it, and it failed that miserably. This car had sat for many years, and yes, this engine might be perfectly fine. It might just be dirty. It might be stuck rings. It might be a stuck valve. However, I can't sell that. I can't sell that with a warranty, so I have to take it apart. It's just not worth enough for me to risk, and I don't want to waste anybody's time. So we're going to take this apart, and then hopefully we don't see any major damage. I know you guys are rooting for damage, and there might be some. But if there's no major damage, I'm going to sell this engine complete, but in pieces, if that makes any sense. That makes no sense at all. The small block Ford has been around for a long time. It started with the 260, the 289, and then eventually the 302. And they actually made this engine in the Explorer up until the 2001 model year. So these engines were OBD1, OBD2, OBD0, carbureted, throttle body injection. They had a ton of different iterations of this engine. And this is one of the final 2 years of Mustang engine. I think it makes like 220 horsepower, 225, something like that. And they sound great. That's my favorite thing about these engines is the way they sound. They're also very easy to work on. But you guys are all going to laugh at me now. I've never torn one down. Ever. Every time I get one of these in, it runs fine. And I sell it as a complete engine. This is the first one that doesn't. So it's going to be a first for me. A small block Ford. I know. As with most of my teardowns, we're going to start pulling the plugs and see what they look like. Dipstick? It's always a dipstick. The plugs all look pretty good. They're auto lights. I mean, they're really rusty looking, but the electrodes have plenty of life left. Nothing has been mechanically regapped. There's no signs of malice in the combustion palace. Nothing yet. The first thing I'd really like to do is pull the valve covers off, but the EGR pipe's in the way. And one thing I also wanted to mention is this engine uses fractional fasteners. I mean, Imperial or standard, SAE, whatever, not metric. Okay, well, that's going to require some more oomph. Let's start with the left cylinder head. That was a good sound. At first glance, I didn't see anything wrong with this, but as I started checking these rockers, what I'm really trying to do is check to see if there's any play between the rocker and the push rod or the rocker and the top of the valve, indicating either a bent push rod or a stuck valve. But when I got to this here, that's not good. I suppose it could also be a collapsed lifter. That is possible. And here's the push rod for that rocker. I can easily move that, which tells me it's probably a collapsed lifter, not a stuck valve. Let's get the other side apart. That's the same way there. There. So yeah, this thing just hasn't pumped up in a while, and that's likely why these are like this. I'm going to take a moment and get the exhaust manifolds out of the way, kind of clean this up, and get ready to pull the cylinder heads. Okay. Just like that. See if we can get this dipstick out of the way. Ooh, that feels like it's one piece with the block. I think we're gonna leave that there for a moment. I need to replace that fitting. Well, that wasn't as smooth as the other side. Time to crack the head bolts loose. No idea how tight these will be. That's not good. Why does that happen? The coolant is clean. We're just gonna fix this real quick. Apparently, the head bolts go right into a water jacket. That's pretty much normal for these, so don't be too alarmed. Let's get these bolts out of the way. Get this head off. Now, it is an iron head, so it should be pretty heavy. I really don't know how to grab it. Haha! Probably stuck in some dowels. Let's see if we can do this without dropping this. Oh yeah. She's full of coolant. Bunches of coolant. A bushel of coolant. Maybe not that much. Push rods, everything's falling. Well, that didn't really go as I planned, but you guys probably all saw that coming. Head gasket looks gaskety. I don't see anything blown. This actually looks really nice in here. Factory cross-hatching is still visible. There's some signs of rust here on that cylinder wall. A little bit down here. I mean, this thing probably sat without the engine turning over for some time. There's not a ridge or anything at the top, so that's good. Not bad. The head looks pretty good too. No obvious issues. I'm actually going to take this opportunity to rotate the engine and try to pour most of the coolant out of it. We'll see if that actually works. That was drained. Come on. It's impossible to get all the coolant out. In order to not repeat that disaster that was the other head, we're going to crack all the rockers loose, take the rockers off, get the push rods out, put the rockers back on, and then we'll pull the cylinder head. On the other side, the push rods were still in and they helped push the head off of the block. In this situation, I took the push rods out, so we're just going to give it a little nudge here. Okay. The last thing I really want to do is send this thing flying. So, I'm going to thread one bolt back in, just a couple threads, just a little bit, just to keep something terrible from happening. Not saying it would, but it could. Let's get this head gasket off. Let's look up. This side looks pretty good too. It's got a little debris from when I pulled that head off, but not bad at all. Let's go look at the head. Head looks okay. It's really hard to gauge how well those valves seat. Let's turn this over and get some more coolant out of it. I'm going to turn this engine over. We're going to see how this feels now that we got the heads off. Just a little bit of rust staining. This engine looks really nice. This is before Ford came out with the adjustable rods. I think that side's in nicer shape, just because it doesn't have any rust stains in it. Next, we're going to pull the lifters out. That bank all had good lifters. The rollers were good on all of those lifters, but a lot of these were pumped down, and I could press down with my thumb. That one there. Same story. All the roller parts of the lifters are good, but several of these are bled down. Now we'll get the water pump pulley off.
Okay.
Let's try to get this water pump off. Nope, we're going to have to get this off first. Let's do that. Wow. One that someone did something wrong. Oh, that's going to break. Yep, that's going to break. Let's get this hot. Okay, I just breathed on it a whole bunch. I did not use anything with an open flame. No, I did not. Let's go tight a little bit here. This is still going to break. Maybe not. Holy cow. Oh no, the head of the bolt. Oh no, bad stuff is happening. But I breathed on you. Well, water pump's loose. Is this coming out for real? I think this is working. It's happening. It smells so delicious. I think we're clear here. Ooh, look at that bolt. Oh, it's hot still. I forgot how hot my breath was. That could have been bad. It could have been not good, which is also bad. If I hadn't had tacos for dinner tonight, that bolt may never have come out. Thanks, wife. All right, let's get this crank pulley off. I'll set that right there. Ooh, that almost went in the coolant. All right, let's get a puller set up here. Now, I don't exactly recommend using an impact for this. but we're going to use an impact for this. As you can see, the shaft is not bent at all. I've never abused this thing at all. Now, let's get this timing cover off. Timing cover looks good. Okay, let's get this cam out. It's coming, it's just, there we go. Getting that initial one. And let's see if we can see any writing on it. Well, I can't read any of the writing on the back of this cam. There's a big 3 on it, maybe? 6, 7 something, I don't know. It was a stock car, so there's no reason to suspect it had an aftermarket cam. It's got a part number, nope, maybe. I don't know what I'm looking for. I think it's a stock cam. Now we're going to flip this thing upside down, and we're going to really put some hope in the fact that it's drained. It's possible that it's drained. It's just not drained. Nope. I mean, it's kind of drained. It would have had a lot more oil in it than it does now. All right, let's get this pan off. Right in the oil. Okay, let's get this pan off. Well, this all looks pretty orderly. There's a couple pieces of stuff in the pickup. Nothing awful though. Nothing that would clog it. But where did that stuff come from? The rest of this all looks pretty decent. We're gonna get this oil pump out of here, and then we'll start taking rods and pistons out. All right, let's talk about this cam and oil pump situation. It's a little different than all of the other engines I've torn down on this channel. So the way the oil pump works is that the cam turns the distributor, which is that gear there, and then at the end of the distributor, which I don't have at this point, I don't know where that thing went, that drives this rod here, and this rotates, and that drives the oil pump. It's pretty simple. Okay, we're going to start pulling rods and pistons now. This dipstick is going to be a problem. I win. I win. Well, surprisingly, the bearings don't look that nice. These have some pretty decent wear. This one's got a deep groove. You can see it's worn through the first layer on a lot of these. Did not expect that. All of the rings are free. No, I mean, I'm not going to give them to you. What I mean is they're not stuck. So whatever the leak down issue was, I don't think it was in the bottom end. It wasn't a crankcase issue. All of the rings move very easily. Checked every single one. All right, only one thing left to do, and that is pull the crank. We also found some wear on the main bearings. You can see it's worn to the copper layer. That's L-A-Y-E-R, not L-A-I-R, whatever the heck that's supposed to be. Just thought I'd clarify. Definitely had some worn bearings there. The bores just look phenomenal. I didn't suspect we'd see issues with that. The crank actually looks pretty decent. There's no deep grooves. I would definitely polish it. I wouldn't slap some bearings in it. A totally usable crank though. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is likely the easiest V8 I've torn down on this channel. And I know some of you are screaming at me, LSs are the easiest thing. Well, I don't really think they are. They're just a little bit more difficult than the small block Ford was. And I'm not upset that I didn't see anything majorly wrong with this engine. I mean, sure, it had worn bearings. It likely had less than ideal oil pressure, but it probably ran when parked. Literally, probably ran okay when parked. The reason it failed the leak down test is unknown. It could be a valve seat. It could have a piece of carbon hanging a valve open, sticky valves. Either way, I can't sell a question mark as good and hope it's going to come around once it's run operating temperature or run hard. It's just not my normal business practice. I'd rather take a good engine apart because I don't know than ship an engine as good and I also don't know. I don't like selling question marks. As far as selling engines, I'm going to sell this as a complete package. Cheap. Really cheap. I have no money in this engine. It came from a car that I parted out. I assumed the engine had a problem. I sold the manual transmission stuff, made all my money there. So any reasonable offer plus the cost of shipping, you'll have yourself a small block Ford project. I know it's going to need assembly. I get it. Now, if you are into these engines, you need to check out my friend's channel. I don't like promoting other channels that I don't know anything about, but my good friend Brandon in Colorado has a twin turbo small block Ford Ranger. It is exceptionally powerful and it has working AC. Everything works. He's put like 100,000 miles on it since it's been twin turbocharged. Started as a 3-liter truck, then it was a 5-liter with a manual, and it's got a 6-speed in it now, and now it's a 5.8 liter. He's crazy. The truck is awesome. I'm going to have a link in the video description. I'm also going to have a link for our email in the video description if you'd like to buy this engine or parts off of any of the other engines I've torn down. And as always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one. Oh yeah, I got a few engines in. I'm going to be busy.